everybody. Thank you for joining me in another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas. And today we're going to be talking about dealing with toxic people, which is something that a lot of us, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you, have dealt with. And before we start, I want to say thank you to all the messages, to all the people in the community. Thank you for sharing your stories with me. Thank you for being part of this. Let's make this grow even more so everybody can understand what we're dealing with. So let's get the show started. Like I said, we're going to be talking about dealing with toxic people. Now, one of the hardest things that happens when dealing with toxic people is that sometimes you have to cut them out. And you might feel like you're being selfish, but they could be energy vampires. They can sometimes, depending on their toxicity, they can make you feel like you're worthless. They can just use you for when they need you. Sometimes even their toxicity rubs on you. And here's one of the hardest topics in this or subtopics for this main topic, which is that when they're, even if they're family, sometimes you have to cut them off as well. I had to do the same thing with my family. I cut them off. I don't really have any interaction with them. That's to protect my own self from their toxicity. And the reason why they're toxic is because it's their way or the highway. They're kind of like very close-minded. And they also always try to make me feel bad about myself, which is the main reason why I don't talk to them, because that's pretty much all they like to do. And some of the things that you have to do to pretty much prevent from toxic people to get to your affect your mental state, especially if you're not able to cut them out or cut them off, you have to set boundaries. Now, by setting boundaries, you don't have to be cold or anything like that. You don't have to build this big wall or anything like that. You just have to sometimes learn to say no. Like, for example, if somebody's just trying to use you, they're always gonna ask you for favors, or they're always gonna look for you when they need something. And you can always say like, no, I can do that if they ask for a favor, or if they wanna just talk and rant about how their day was. You can always say like, no, I have better things to do, or I'm tired, I need to get some rest. You can just be yourself and say no. Now also, you have to learn your limits. In case that you actually decide to help them, you have to ask yourself, is this going to take me out physically, emotionally, mentally? Like, how is this going to affect me? Because let's say you help them move or something like that, but you have like fibromyalgia or chronic pain. You help them, the next day you're gonna feel even worse. That's the thing. You're gonna feel even worse, so you're gonna be in so much pain. So you have to know your limits and pretty much listen to your body. That's the main thing. Also, you have to sometimes take a step back and look at their life and what's going on there as well, because a lot of toxic people, and this happens a lot at workplaces and even with family, they're just so negative in such way. Like I have worked in places where people are so negative, and like they're literally, you can see it on their eyes or even on their attitude that they're something's going on. But when you ask them what's going on, hey, are you okay, they're always like, oh, I'm okay. But then something happens and it triggers them. It triggers them for some reason. So you have to take a step back and sometimes put yourself on their shoes. And in some cases, you just have to limit the contact as well. So you just have to see how many times you can see them, how much you can tolerate this person. So that's pretty much what, for me at least, is limiting my contact. Like with my family, I don't really talk to them. They're like off. With certain people that I know they're energy vampires, I don't even talk to them. I just say hi, bye, and goodbye, pretty much. Now, when setting limits, or I mean boundaries, one of the things that you have to think, like I was saying, you have to see how this will affect you. Like I'm gonna share this with you guys. Like I used to have this very good friend. We were like inseparable. We were like together pretty much all day. She was my pretty much my best friend and everything. But once she started dating, she will forget about me. Like literally, she will like ghost me in those type of situations. But anytime something will go wrong, she will call me, and obviously I will feel almost obligated to help them or to help her or to be. And I'm sorry, my dog is barking. So I will have to help her. And obviously back then when we were friends, we had to we I was very tired because I was suffering from undiagnosed sleep apnea, so I was in pain. I was still trying to help her, and then obviously she will meet somebody else and she will disappear. And I'm pretty sure I love you guys have a lot of stories like that. And one of the things that happened recently, I think it was not last year, the year before, for some reason she decided to come back into my life, but now I'm married. And I told her, like, listen, I'm married. I cannot do everything that I used to do before. Like, I have other priorities. And we talked for a little bit. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but one day, for some reason, I couldn't really text her. My wife was sick or hospitalized, so I really couldn't talk to anybody because I was working and going to see my wife at the hospital. And I sent her a message after a while, and I say, hey, how are you? And then she goes off at me like, how come you did this? Why did you disappear? Blah, 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 blah. And I told her, like, you have done this before, and I never complained. And she got mad about that because I called her out. So we don't talk anymore, and I'm like, I'm okay with it. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, sometimes you have to call them out too. You have to call them out. That way you can see, like, hey, you do this to me. Why am I tolerating it? And if something like that happens to you, you don't. So that can also be a sign that you're dealing with a toxic person. And you always have to put yourself first, like I mentioned before. Like you say, you can ask yourself the question: am I able to help them without hurting myself? Because, like I said, you can actually get hurt even more. And listen to your body, and don't put others before you. And that's not being selfish. Actually, a lot of people think that by doing that you feel you're being selfish, but it's not selfish. It's just taking care of yourself. So like I said, it's okay to say no. Don't feel bad about it because you're taking care of yourself. And also, sometimes, depending on how you've been wired from growing up, you have to rewire yourself or your brain and put yourself first. You have to put yourself first, but for some people it's hard because of the way that they've been taught in this case, like from growing up, from seeing their parents helping everybody. You might feel like it's your job or your obligation to help somebody, but if you're facing something else, you have to take care of yourself first. And you're never ever obligated to help or do something, even if they're family. So just remember that. Don't feel obligated. It could be your best friends. It could be family, co-workers, anything. Don't feel obligated, because that's a lot of things that we want to fit in by putting others in front of ourselves. Pretty much, we want to fit in. It's like, oh, if I help this person, then I'm gonna fit in with this person, and then this person might introduce me to their group or something like that. But don't think about it that way, and be very careful with toxic people, especially when you're a spoonie. Sorry, my dog is crying. Oh, she's just scratching herself. Sorry. So be very careful when you're a spoonie, because people will try to abuse you. It has happened to my wife while everything was going on, when she was at her worst with her depression and everything, and being in and out of the hospital. She had this friend that told my wife literally that I was being a bad husband for going to work while she was sick. When my wife told me that, I was like, well, I have to make sure that she can afford her medicine, and also for her to be able to afford to go to the doctor. So I don't see it as being a bad husband. I see it as being as a provider to make sure that she can get the care that she needs. But we cut that person off because she was very toxic. So I'm just giving you all these examples because you might be dealing with somebody like that it makes you feel bad about yourself or something like that. So just look at the red flags, follow your gut. You will know what to do. So that's the episode for today. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Also follow us, or listen to us wherever you're listening to your podcast. All the links are on the description of the episode. I wish I could say them all, but I don't have a good memory, so that's why I don't really say exactly where we're playing, because I don't really remember them all. I have a bad memory, but maybe I'm just gonna write them down and then just say it at the end of every episode. Like I said, this podcast is gonna grow organically. Even with me here, this is not gonna look all professional. This is just going to be something that's gonna grow with time, to show that nothing it starts with perfection. And there's nothing to fight perfection for or anything like that. That's why I'm doing the podcast this way. So thank you for all your messages. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for listening, watching, and being part of this community. Together we can end the stigma for all chronic illnesses or invisible illnesses, or any illness pretty much. So thank you for that, and I'll leave you with this: always take care of yourself.